I was there. I was there. I was there when he died. He's not supposed to die. He wasn't supposed to die. He wasn't supposed to die. How can he be dead? How can Jesus be dead? He was the one. We knew he was the one. He was the one we'd all been waiting for. He was Jesus. He was from God. How can he be dead? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But he's dead. I was there. He's dead. I spent 3 years of my life with him, and now he's gone, and it doesn't make any sense. I remember when I met him, my brother Andrew is the one who introduced us. Hey, Andrew came to me. He's all excited. He's all pumped up, and he says, Simon, we found him. I said, what are you talking about? I think we found the Messiah. I think we found the one we've been waiting for. I said, slow down. And Andrew said, we found him. We found the one. And he introduced me to the Master, to the Lord, to the Rabbi, to Jesus. And he wasn't what I expected. He was kind and strong. He was gentle and powerful and compassionate and authoritative and holy. Like there was something about him like no man I'd ever met, and we kind of got to know him a little bit, and we were there in Capernaum. That's where I'm from. I'm from Capernaum. My brother and Andrew and I, we fish Galilee. That's our job. That's all we've ever done. That's what our fathers did, and their fathers before them. And we're fishing partners with two other brothers, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. And we're just fishermen, and Jesus came to Capernaum, not that far from where he was from, Nazareth, and he just was talking, and when he would talk, it's like he spoke directly to your heart, and he'd start up a conversation, and people would just be drawn to him, and before you know it, there was 10 people listening, and then before you know it, there was 50, and then there'd be 200 or 300, and they were all just wanting him to talk. And one day we're there near our boats, and people are just getting closer to him until they're right in his face, and people in the back can't see him and they can't hear. And Jesus said to me, he said, can I get in one of your boats and get just a little bit offshore and teach from there so that they won't be right in my face, so that people can hear me and see me? And it was the heat of the day. We weren't fishing. That's no time to fish. So I said, of course, Rabbi, sure, go ahead. And he got in my boat, he got in our boats, and he went off and he kept teaching and told these stories, these parables that explained life and weren't just stories. And people were hanging on every word. And it seemed like it must have been a couple of hours, but it went by like minutes. And the crowd dispersed, and it was almost time for us to go out and fish. And so we got back in our boat and we went out to fish, and it was another one of those days, no luck, no fish. We pulled the nets in 100 times, not even one little fish. We were about to give up when Rabbi, he said, throw your net on the other side of the boat. Like, oh, like we haven't thought of that. He's a carpenter. Okay, Rabbi, we'll do it. We'll do what you said. And we threw it out on the other side of the boat. And then we started to pull it in. And and it was heavy. And Andrew and I were pulling, and we couldn't even get it. And we called over James and John, and we were pulling it in. And there were so many fish in the net, it about swamped the boat. And we finally got this enormous catch of fish, more fish than we'd catch in a month, more fish than I'd ever caught in one catch in my life. And I should have been thrilled because that's money. That's money to feed the family. That's money. But I was kind of scared. Like, that doesn't happen. Nothing one minute and more than enough, more than you ever seen the next minute. I'm a fisherman. It doesn't happen that way. But we got him to shore, and I was scared because that's impossible. It's miraculous. So I said to the rabbi, I said, I think you better not have anything to do with us, at least with me, because I'm not religious. I'm not a holy person like you. I've done some things I'm not proud of, and I don't think you want to hang around with somebody like me. I think maybe you better go on to the next place. You don't want to hang around with somebody like me. He just smiled, and there was kindness in his eyes, and he said, Simon, I'm gonna show you how to fish for people, for the kingdom. He said, come on with me. Follow me. Andrew, you too. James, John, you too. Come on. Follow me. Help me out in this ministry. Come on, I'll show you all of you. And we did. It sounds crazy, but we did. We left the boats. We left the nets. We left our families. They're in Capernaum, and we just followed him to the next town. And he did the same thing there. He just started telling stories, and the crowd went from a few people to hundreds. And some of the people, like one time, somebody had a sick child, and they said, Rabbi, would you pray for my little child? And Jesus put his hand on the child's head, and he said, be well. And he was healed. And then word got out he could heal, and people, every place we went, people started healing, and people started bringing people to him, and he'd lay hands not just on a sick child. He gave sight to a blind man, and a deaf man could hear, and a man who couldn't walk, he could walk, and he drove out evil spirits and demons, and he was not only the most amazing speaker and teacher I'd ever heard, he was a miracle worker. He was healing people, and the more he healed, the more people came. He was doing it 7 days a week. He was doing it all day, every day, teaching and healing and counseling, and he was doing it every day, and that's what started to get him into trouble, because he was doing it every day, including the Sabbath. He was healing on the Sabbath. Like this one time, we were in a synagogue. They invited him to speak at the synagogue, and he's talking, and there was this little lady there, this lady, and she was all stooped over like this. She's walking around like this, and she couldn't straighten up. She'd been like that for like almost 20 years, not able to straighten up, walking around hunched over like that for almost 20 years. And Jesus saw her there in the synagogue worshiping, and he went up to her and he said, ma'am, he put his hand just on her back. He said, you're free. You're free. Stand up, sit up, stand up. And she stood up, and her back was all straight again. For the first time, in 20 years, she straightened up, and she was healed. And people were like amazed, except some of the Pharisees who were there, and they said, "Lawbreaker!" to Jesus, "Lawbreaker!" They said, "There's 6 days to work, not today. Today's the Sabbath. You've worked, you've healed someone. That's work. You've healed on the Sabbath. You're a lawbreaker. Do you not follow the laws of Moses?" And Jesus said to them, "You hypocrites, you hypocrites. When your donkey or your ox needs water on the Sabbath? Don't you untie it and walk it over to the water and then take it back? Isn't that work? You do that on the Sabbath? But this poor woman who's been bound by Satan for 20 years and has been released, and you're mad? Did you want me to say, well, next time I'm in town, maybe it won't be the Sabbath and I can heal you then? I'm not going to let her suffer like this. And they had no answer for that. The Pharisees had no answer for that. But they just stared at him, and I could see they hated him. They hated him. Because he'd called them hypocrites, which is what they were. And that kind of thing started to happen more and more, because Jesus didn't care what day it was. If people came to him with needs, he healed them, and he helped them, and he taught them about God, what God is like, that he's like a father, that he's loving and compassionate, that he created us with love, that the Sabbath was made as a gift to humanity, not a burden to be borne. And he told these stories, and people flocked to him. And we went all over Galilee, and we went down into Judea and back, and we went everywhere. And there were 12 of us who were like his core guys, and we ate together, and we went and spent, sometimes somebody would let us stay at their house, sometimes we had to sleep outside. We didn't have much money. Somehow God provided it. We did this for month after month. And then a few days ago, everything went bad. We came to Jerusalem for the Passover. Started off good, because by this time, everybody knew about Jesus of Nazareth, the miracle worker, the healer, the rabbi, the man from Nazareth. His reputation was everywhere. So when we were coming into town, people knew we were coming. The word had gotten out we were coming, that Jesus was coming. They were waiting for him to come into town, and Jesus said, I need a donkey. He wanted to ride in on a donkey, and he explained he had to show them he was coming in peace. He had to show them he was coming in peace, because he knew some of them had never heard him say, love your enemies. Some of them had never heard him say, pray for those who persecute you. Some of them had never heard him say, turn the other cheek, go the extra mile. He knew some of them thought he was a soldier. Some of them thought he was going to rise up and lead a revolution or something. And so he rode in on a donkey to show them he was coming in peace, he in shalom. And the people were still lined up, and they're waving palm branches and shouting out, Hosanna, Hosanna, save us, rescue us, Son of David, deliver us, Son of David. And the priest said, tell your people to be quiet. And Jesus said, if they be quiet, the rocks will start crying out. And that was Sunday. And he was in Jerusalem. He was going to teach every day in the temple courts and the outer courts. And on Monday, he went to the temple courts, and all these tables were set up. People selling doves and lambs and goats, and guys changing money from Roman money to temple money and all this stuff. And Jesus started to realize they were cheating the people. Enormous surcharges, enormous markups on all the things. And if you brought your own animal, they'd say, no, that's not good enough. You got to buy one of the official animals from one of our dealers. It was a scam. They were cheating the people, and all the money was going in the pocket of the high priest. And I've never seen Jesus that mad. I've never seen him get that mad. In 3 years, I'd never seen him get that mad. He went over and he turned over their tables, and he scattered the coins all over the ground. And he got a whip somewhere, and he started saying, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And he drove them out. He said, you've taken my Father's house a house of prayer, and you've turned it into a robber's den, a house of thieves. I didn't go over too well with the high priest. He didn't like that at all. The next day, Tuesday, Jesus was back in the temple courts, and the people were loving it. They were hanging on every word. And he taught all day Tuesday there in the temple courts. He taught all day Wednesday in the temple courts. He taught Thursday morning in the temple courts. And then he said, it's time tonight. We're having our Passover meal. And somebody had provided a place for us to have the meal. And it was a weird day. It was weird all day. He'd been saying weird stuff. And we were all in a funk. We were all grumbling at each other. And we'd all been arguing about stupid stuff. We were all already who's going to sit next to Jesus? Who gets to sit next to him at the meal? Whose turn is it to sit next to Jesus? And we were saying, well, who's in charge when he's not around? Who's like second in command? And we were arguing about all these stuff. And we got to the thing, and it had been raining, and the streets were muddy. And we got there, and our feet and our shoes were full of mud and dirt and yuck. And nobody wanted to wash the feet. It's your turn to do it. No, I did it last time. I think it's your turn. Well, you never do it. Well, I'm the oldest. I shouldn't have to do it. John's the youngest. He should do it. Well, John said, I've done it 3 times already this week. And everybody's arguing about who's going to wash the feet. Nobody wanted to wash the feet. And while we're arguing, Jesus took off his garment and he put a towel around his waist and got the water basin. He said, all right, who's first? He was going to wash our feet. Jesus, the master, the rabbi, he was going to wash the feet. The rabbi is not supposed to wash the disciples' feet. The teacher's not supposed to wash the students' feet. And there's Jesus ready to wash our feet. I was like, no, Rabbi, no, that's not right. That's not right. And he just started doing it. And everybody was awkward and uncomfortable. And he came to me, and I said, no, master, no, Rabbi, no, you can't wash. That's just not right. He said, I have to wash you, Peter, so you'll be clean. He got real serious. He got real serious, and he started saying dark things were coming, and enemies were coming at him. And he said, tonight, this very night, he said, tonight, you're all going to abandon me. He said, tonight, you're all going to abandon me. You could hear a pin drop. And nobody knew what to say to that. I said, Jesus, no. I don't know of anybody else. I will never abandon you. I will die before I would abandon you. And he looked at me with love. He said, Simon, you're going to abandon me tonight 3 times. You're going to deny you even know me. Before morning, before the cock crows, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny that you even know me 3 times. I said, Rabbi, that is impossible. That I would never do that. We finished the meal. He said, let's go pray. It was getting late, but he wanted to go pray, so we went to a garden. It was really getting late, and he said, stay up and pray with me. And he was on his knees and on his face, and he was sweating blood. He was overwrought, and he said, pray with me. He said, Peter, pray with me. John, James, pray with me. And we said, okay. But we were so sleepy, and we're so tired. And we kept falling asleep. Okay, let's pray. And then we'd fall right back asleep. And I was sleeping when we heard all this commotion, and we saw these torches coming. And here came Judas, leading the temple guard. With their swords and their spears. And Judas Iscariot, that son son of the devil, that Judas, he went up to Jesus and he kissed him and said, Master. It was a signal that they were to arrest Jesus, and they did, and they started grabbing Jesus, and I had a sword. I was like, this is not happening. I pulled out the sword, and I got off one swing. I got the ear off of one of the servants of the high priest, and Jesus said, put it away. That's not our way. That's not how we do things, Peter. He reached up and he healed the guy's ear. And they got Jesus and they tied up his wrists and started to take him away. And we all looked at each other and we all ran. We all ran into the darkness. We ran. But I didn't run that far. I had to see what was going to happen. So I followed at a distance. And they took him into town and they took him to the house of the high priest. And the whole Sanhedrin was there meeting. And I was out in the courtyard just trying to listen to what was going to happen. I heard shouting and yelling and all kinds of commotion in there. And there was angry voices. And I was trying to make it out. And I heard all kinds of things that sounded ugly in there. And as I'm standing out in the courtyard by the fire, a woman comes up to me and she said, "You're one of Jesus' followers, aren't you?" And I said, No, that's not me. You're mistaken. I think you got the wrong guy. But then another woman came up and she looked at me and she squinted and she said, "Yeah, I saw you. You were with Jesus." I said, "No, I don't know any Jesus. That must have been somebody else. I don't know him." Then a bunch of people, they all came and they said, "I can tell by your accent, you're Galilean. That's where he's from. You're definitely one of them. You're one of his followers." And I said, No, curse you. No. I swear I don't know him. I swear it. I don't know him. And the rooster crowed, just like he said it would. The rooster crowed. I'd done it. I'd sworn I wouldn't do it, and I did it. I did the very thing he said I'd do. He knew it. And I left because I was afraid. But I know what happened. That morning, they took him to Pilate, said he was some big, dangerous revolutionary, convinced him to kill him, execute him. They whipped him. They nailed him to a cross with a couple of common thieves. And he hung there. Women were crying. His mother was watching him die. And he died. And they took him down. And they buried him. And he's dead. He's dead. I don't know how. How could he die? How could God let him die? He was supposed to be the one. He is the one, but he's dead. How can he be dead? I just don't know how he can be dead. They put him in a tomb and rolled a stone in front of it. And now it's the Sabbath. I don't know what I'm going to do.